Welcome to the Golden Hour. I have an incredible show for you today. I am so excited about the guests that I have. This is a complete manifestation that started maybe a year, maybe 2 years ago. I don't know, but there was stuff in the energy field, and this is the product of that. And I'm really excited to share. So today I have Bekki Prather with me. She has been providing family law services to Orange County for over 30 years, and provides knowledgeable and compassionate representation regarding family law issues. She has vast experience in many areas of family law, including but not limited to divorce, custody and visitation, paternity actions, domestic violence, child and spousal support, post-judgment modifications, civil harassment, restraining orders, and name changes. This woman is incredible. She has so much wisdom to share. And one of the biggest reasons I wanted to have her on here is because I see people navigating divorce, and I see it as one of the most challenging things that we go through as humans. So please help me welcome Bekki Prather. Hi.
Hello, Golden. How are you today?
I am so good, and I am so happy to have you here. So I just want to give a little backstory to people so they understand where we come from and why we love each other so much.
Absolutely.
So Bekki's my neighbor, and I feel like I won the neighbor lottery with Bekki.
We
And
manifested each other.
We totally manifested each other. And this is the crazy thing. So Bekki, where were you born?
I was born in Hartford, Connecticut.
Hartford, Connecticut.
Which is, where you come from.
Crazy.
Well, sort of. I don't know what part of Connecticut, but
I was in Bridgeport. Very close.
Okay, there you go.
But that was one of those crazy synchronicities where, and a lot of people won't understand this, but when you meet people from the East Coast, you have similar beliefs, and you have similar energies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we hit it off pretty quickly, and we have our Saturday morning coffee talks, and I love that. So
I do too. I do too.
Yes,
we're going to do some more about right here. So. Very excited.
We are letting you all in on our coffee talk.
Nobody is safe. Nothing is safe. That's right.
So this is a great conversation, and I think you're the perfect person to have this conversation with, because you're in the trenches every day. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You said it at the top of the show that you're dealing with people at one of the most difficult times of their life. It really is. And anything that we as family law professionals can do to help our clients kind of push and pull them through the process, and just, try to do no harm on the way, we're always looking for ways to improve the system. And I think that you have something to offer along those lines. So
I do my best. I really do.
Yeah.
And that's the basis of this show, is to help people to take their power back in this situation.
Yes.
And also to heal, because I think as well, people that go through divorce or, massive breakups, or their families just kind of falling apart.
Yes.
When we get married, we have this idea that it's going to be forever, of course, right?
Yes.
And then when it doesn't work out that way, it's like your whole identity has crumbled, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
Your security of your home, you have your children, maybe not, but you certainly had a vision going into this. And suddenly you're right there. And then they have no vision at all. It just completely evaporates. And where do you go to, from there? So yeah. Definitely.
So you're walking through walking people through the process of actually creating a new identity for themselves. Correct. And helping them to do it in the highest way possible.
Well, that's the thing, and we're always trying to find the best way possible to, to get them in the process and out of the process as fast, as inexpensive, as just do no harm, just try to limit the trauma that goes along with getting a divorce. Yeah. We do our best. Sometimes, it can be very traumatic, but but finding your own power, that's where it starts.
Absolutely. So what is your background, and what got you interested in family law in particular?
Well, I was an accounting major in college. It was just the craziest thing. And I was actually working for a guy who owned a carpet company, and he got a divorce. And he was kind of a high end guy. And so his attorney, I was doing all of his accounting for him and stuff. And his attorney reached out to me and wanted me to complete an income and expense declaration, which is a very common document, needs to be updated every 30 days if you're going to court in California. And so I had to prepare this one document that I now do in about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, type of thing. But of course, I turned that into a gigantic project and took a month to do it, And but I was hooked. I just loved it, And family law combines my accounting background with my vision that I was put on this earth to help people somehow, some way. And I think if you have that kind of feeling in your life, you find a way to help people. I know mine's a little a little weird, but like I said, I think that I'm helping people at a difficult time in their life. And
Yeah.
so if you can have somebody that has vision, maybe you don't, but if you can, bond with your lawyer enough and hope that they have some vision to pull you through. And so
Yeah.
and I like to inspire my clients. I've been through the process myself, so I know, I understand it's not an easy process, and I couldn't do it myself. I had to be represented. So
Right.
there you go.
Right. And I love that because that means that you have experience like you and I think that's where your compassion comes in because you have
Yes.
walked that road and you do know how hard it is. You're
Yes.
able to offer that to people in a way that's like, I know what you're going through. And guess what? I'm on the other side and
Mhm.
there's light at the end of this tunnel. And
Yes.
I think you being able to say that from a place of knowing probably gives your clients a lot, even more of a feeling of security of working with you.
I'd like to hope so.
Yeah, no, I
I
believe you.
really
I
would.
believe it.
Yeah.
I'm a believer.
So yeah.
All right. So what is the best advice you can give to someone? And this show is we're not, promoting divorce. Okay. First of all, I just want to say that.
Yes.
What I will say about divorce and the things that I've seen with people who are living a life that feels very much less than, and as far as what I believe about marriage and, sticking it together and creating something rich and deep, I'm a big believer in that. But I'm also a believer in chapters ending of
Yes.
you vibrationally growing and someone else and not. So I'm going to say it's okay if you've gotten to the point where you've done everything that you think you can do
Hmm.
and you're at a point in your life where you are so unhappy that this feels like the way to your joy to get out of this unhappiness, what would be the best advice you could give to someone just thinking about taking that first step?
Well, I'm going to break it down into two answers.
Okay.
The first one is in respect to actually knowing when it's time to actually file for divorce. Um, I believe that the answer comes from the inside out. It's not something that you can't manufacture an answer to that. I think that when it becomes time, it's almost going through the process for you. I think your
Yeah.
instincts take over and your brain stops thinking, and
Mhm.
so it becomes a very, like I said, a decision that comes from the inside. That's the first thing. And until
Awesome.
you get to that point, I just, well, we can talk about that later, but I just, it's very obvious to me, at least when the time comes. The second thing, in respect to best advice, I think it's try not to take the divorce process in big bites. Break
Mhm.
it down, set
Good.
some goals for yourself. What is it? Because now you're going to be in a situation where you're picking your battles. And so, and we all know that the definition of a fair deal is everybody's unhappy at the end, and all that other stuff. So you're going to have to probably come off your positions a little bit. And
Yep.
so I think that you should decide up front, what are your deal breakers? What
Yeah.
is it that you want out of this thing? And that the rest of it, if it didn't happen, oh well, those are your throwaway cards, and we just go from there. But just come up with one, two, maybe three goals that you have when you're entering the process, and just go, okay, this is really what I want. And then you have to start a practice of letting go of other things and not fighting every battle. There's a volume control on this thing. You can
Mhm.
turn up the volume for the issues that you are just going to go to the mat on, and you can turn down the volume on stuff that's, maybe it's important to them or, the opposing party or something like that. But just go into it knowing that you're going to win some and lose some.
Yeah,
And so, as long as you're clear on which ones you really want to win,
I
then
love that.
hopefully, that'll work
Yeah.
out a little better.
I absolutely love that because that's clarity, right? And it's
Mhm.
writing it down so it's a strong form of
Yeah.
focus.
Yes.
And it also helps you to recognize what is important. I actually coached a woman through a really yucky divorce, and I remember her losing her mind over this big wardrobe that she owned, and the opposing party knew that she really wanted it, so they put up a fuss. And at the end of the day, after I asked the right questions, she realized that she didn't really want it, that it was just a
Right.
piece of energy that reminded her of her marriage that failed, and she ended up letting it go. But it was
Right.
so interesting the process through that because she was so resistant in the beginning. So I
Right.
love the idea of like really taking a hard look at everything and saying, what is really important at the end of the day? And do I want things that are energetically tied to this relationship? Or is it really better for me to start letting things go? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and those goals may change. A divorce process it's not a quick process. It takes a
No.
lot of endurance to get through it and things like that. So what may be your goals at the beginning of the case may change for that
Mhm.
exact reason. All of a sudden you go, God, how much money am I spending on attorney fees to fight for something that's worth $500 at
Yeah.
best?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but for whatever reason, you're exactly right. We have emotional attachments to a lot of our stuff. And so stuff sometimes is difficult. And going into your kids, well, that's a different story, so
That's a big one. That's a
so
big one.
understandable. It's a much more emotional position. So
No,
understand.
absolutely. And we're going to touch on that. What is
Okay.
the best advice you can give to someone who is in very much in the middle of a really messy situation right now? Like
Yeah.
what's the best thing they can do if everything just feels like a mess and they feel very powerless and things feel out of their control? How do you help people to like get back on the horse?
It happens a lot. It really does.
Mhm.
And there's some people that get into a divorce and think they're the smartest people in the room, and they're going to try to hide assets and do all that other stuff. All it does is run up the attorney fees in the case,
Yep.
and drags the process out. And but we have ways of dealing with people like that. We do.
Mm,
And so oftentimes when you're in the heat of it, if there's a lot of non-disclosure stuff going on, that's usually, or high, conflict custody battles and things like that, it's going to require court intervention to get you out of it.
yeah.
That's what I think. So, again, pick your battles, decide that it's like, okay, custody and visitation, unless there's some dire reason, the courts are going to award joint legal custody, for example.
Mhm.
That's something that
Mhm.
you probably should give up, your fight on. Primary physical custody, okay, that's usually a status quo situation. At least we like to think so. And, and from there, try to turn the volume down.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
takes two,
Yeah.
it really does.
Completely.
And so I really encourage people to understand that you're not going to get everything you want. Try to give a little, and you'll be amazed that sometimes the only way things change is if you change it. That's
Yes.
it. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So just come off your position just a little bit, and you'd be amazed at the ripple effect that it has on your case.
Absolutely, because resistance, there's no movement in resistance. And one of the other things I love to share is that there's no logic when you're overly emotional. So when you're in that overly emotional state, there's no logic, there's no compassion. And when two people are really going at it, I mean, especially if you have children involved, if you're
Right.
just going at it, if you can be the person who shifts just a little bit, and I share this all the time with people, if you can have a little bit of compassion, if you can have a little bit of logic, if you can see that, fairness, there is an ability to have fairness if you aren't in so much resistance, then you're right. The energy field changes. I've seen people do this with like a millimeter shift of their energy field
Yes.
where they just start to feel a little bit different. They stop
Mhm.
feeling powerless and they start feeling like, okay, I'm in my power. What can I do? And I have seen miracles happen in divorce situations
Absolutely.
where women end up winning a lot more. My daughter is a great example of this because she moved to California during COVID, and her daughter's father took her to court for custody, and he ended up winning, and she had to move back to Arizona. And we thought it was like the worst thing, but luckily we understand manifestation and manifestational law, and it was the best thing she ever did. She
Mhm.
couldn't really get her footing in California. She couldn't really get her groove here, and moving back to Arizona and having him as, joint custody and support and sharing in the parental responsibilities has
Absolutely.
been better for
Yeah.
her. And she's actually been able to create some abundance by not trying to carry the load all by herself.
Yeah.
So sometimes it looks like the worst thing in the world just happened, but if you can gain your footing and say, I can't wait to see what's going to manifest from this, and the universe knows, right?
Yes.
We're co-creating. The universe knows what's best. So even if it looks awful right now, just hold on, because if you just keep focusing on what you want, eventually, things may turn out better than you ever thought.
I love that. I really
Yeah,
do, because it's a very real answer. And I've seen it time and time again. Once you're out of the process it's got its grip on you, you
yeah,
know? So your job is to get out of the process the best that you can.
yeah,
Okay. Take your kids with you, show them what it looks like to get through tough times, instead of, this constant arguing in front of them, or, all that stuff. You know what? Just settle down and, like you said, get your power back, and, find the exit as soon as you can,
yeah,
because you're exactly right. Your new life, once you walk through this fire, you're out,
yeah,
and so you can, definitely start on the next chapter in your life,
yeah.
so do
And
what
like
you
you
can.
said, the more you're in resistance to the process, the longer the process is going to take, the more money it's going to take, the more energy it's going to take, and the more everyone's going to suffer,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So what
absolutely.
would you say to parents in helping their kids navigate a divorce process? Because kids go through, I think kids probably get the hardest end of the deal, because now they
Absolutely.
end up having to go to different houses and their whole lives really get shook up. What would you say is the best way to kind of mentally help these kids navigate this in the highest possible way?
I just mentioned something a second ago about showing your kids how to act. Okay.
Mm,
If you are a person that breaks down or gets angry a lot and, hits things or throws things and, things like that, chances are you're going to have children that break down, hit people, throws things, and things like that, because that's what they see. That's
yeah,
what they think. When you get upset, this is how we act.
yeah,
And so I really believe that if you are able to find the strength, okay, if you want to go cry, cry in the shower,
yeah.
just go somewhere else.
Mhm.
And, but be strong in front of your
Yeah,
children. And that goes for both parents,
yeah,
and also be consistent. If you have visitation with your children, show up on time, ready to go, and exercise your visitation, because consistent behavior builds trust. There's
yeah.
no other way to put it.
Mm,
And if they, are waiting and you don't show up, then, you know, all of a
yeah,
sudden they're not really trusting the system that they already didn't trust to start off with.
yeah,
And so, and same thing with the custodial parent. Like I said, you have to be strong. You have to encourage frequent and continuing contact with the other parent,
yeah,
because that's what builds strong children. And be
yeah,
consistent at it. And that's how you're going to push and pull your kids through this,
yeah,
is just, just putting their best interests. It's hard. I get it. You're in the middle of the forest, can't figure it out.
yeah,
There's a lot of stuff going on, high emotions, and everything else. But, you definitely do have the strength. And especially, that's what I try to do with my clients, at least, is just talk them down, just stay as level as you possibly can during the process.
Yeah.
And if you're going to freak out somewhere else away from your kids. So just do what you can, so.
I know I love that. And there's foundational things that we can do. And I'll actually jump into this right now. There's mental and physical and spiritual things that we can do to kind of gain our foundation, which is something that my show is really about, taking that power back and doing things every single day that actually ensure that you're going to be in a high frequency, that you're going to be in a higher state of consciousness where you're not subject to that emotional control, to your emotions taking you over and not allowing you to behave in certain ways that are going to be beneficial to your
Yes.
kids, to the process, to your attorney, to everyone involved, right?
Yes.
So what do you do to kind of like keep yourself in a good mental headspace? Because you're dealing with a lot of drama.
Yeah. So, generally speaking, my personal life doesn't have a lot of drama in it. I have, though,
Which is why we get
and
along.
I know, right? Exactly. And, but I think that uh, physically, get out of the house.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're in the house day in and day out, get outside,
Yeah.
so, I'm walking my dog, doing all that stuff, hitting the gym. Um, and as far as spiritually, yeah, meditation, it has a way.
Mhm.
You have to stop, because you and I have talked about before about how fast everything's moving. And
Yeah.
I've been in family law long enough that I remember the days that we didn't have email. Okay. So
Right.
we would have to get a letter in by mail, make a copy of it, fold it up, and mail it to the client. That whole process took 10 days, or a week. And now all of a sudden the whole process has been sped up to 10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that applies straight across the board. So we're on this incredibly fast pace that meditation is so important, or any type of just stop,
Mhm.
take a deep breath,
Mhm.
and just really just exercise that self-care,
Yeah.
because even in family law, but it's not just family law. It's, being stimulated by all the online content and having to scroll and scroll and scroll, and your brain's trying to keep up with all this stuff. And
Yeah.
then you start throwing a divorce action on top of this at that speed. And I really think that you have to take care of, let your brain just stop for a few
Yeah.
minutes. So I think meditation is a key part of that.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I'm gonna throw up. I have a little, I always say throw up, and I don't mean throw up. I mean, I'm going to put up I actually have a meditation teaching that helps you to learn how to meditate. So I'll put that up there.
Oh,
That's on my
love that.
website.
Love
Yep,
that.
it's just a little teaching because a lot of people think that they can't meditate, and the truth is we all can do it. It's just a matter of practicing, of
Mhm.
putting yourself in that place every day. And I think what happens when we're in this really intense time, and I love that you shared this idea of the time table has sped up, that there
Mhm.
is a different, it's different. Divorce is
Yes.
different now, that people had time to process this stuff.
Yes.
They had time to deal with their emotional fields before everything, got so sped up. So I
Mhm.
love that you shared that, because that means we have to learn how to navigate this differently, and we
Mhm.
need to learn how to navigate it like in the best foundation possible. And to
Yes.
me, meditation is like a number one, but it's also being mindful. So meditation's great
Mhm.
as long as you can pull that meditation throughout your day. But if you get up from your meditation practice and you start, spouting off emails to your attorney about how everything isn't going your way, that meditation practice wasn't as valuable as if you being mindful and going, okay, what do I want to happen?
Yeah,
How can I send an email that is all encompassing of what I want and what I want to believe is going to happen? Because people get themselves, they get themselves way
absolutely.
left field, right?
Mhm.
Worst case scenarios. I hear it all the time. And it's like,
Absolutely. And
right?
it seems like that happens at 3 o'clock in the morning. I
Yeah.
don't know why the trouble seems so big at 3 o'clock in the morning. And you wake up at 7 a.m. and you're like, oh, that wasn't,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So I tell
because
my
like
clients just,
yeah, you're subject to a lot of anxiety when you're just laying there because you're no longer doing, you're just being. So that's when all this stuff is going to come up. And that's why you want to meditate. That's why you want to journal. That's why you want to clear this stuff during the day so it doesn't mess with your nighttime sleep. Because
yes.
then you're sleep deprived and then we're dealing with another
Oh my
problem,
God.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
then I tell my clients, just keep a pad of paper and a pen next to your bed.
Yes.
Even if you just wake
Don't
up and
call
just,
me.
don't call me at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm not very good at answering the phone at that time of day.
No.
But I just, yeah, so capture that thought, because once your brain realizes that the thought is captured, it'll let it go.
Let it go.
And, so that way you don't have to keep, going, this loop that's going on and keeping you up and things like that. If we're doing great thinking at 3 o'clock in the morning, let's capture it, you
Oh,
know,
that's solid advice.
and
That's solid advice
and
for
then put it
anyone.
all together in one email to your attorney, not
Yeah.
15, just one.
Yeah.
We
I
do
love
read your
that.
emails and we use them. So,
I really love that. That's really good advice, and it's good advice for anybody who's having trouble sleeping. Just get up and write it down and let it go,
let it
right? And
go.
then you can go
Mhm.
back to sleep.
Yes.
I also love to I'm really into these, alpha meditations, and one thing that they teach in that is from, counting down from 100 to 1. So when I wake up in the middle of the night, because I've been doing these meditations for about a month probably, when I do this countdown, it kind of tells my body, okay, we're going into meditation, which meditation is right before sleep. So
Mhm.
then my brain will start to shut down and I fall back to sleep a lot easier. So that's a really good tip
Love
if you
that.
have trouble
Okay.
sleeping.
I'll
Yeah.
take that tip.
Have you ever seen anyone change their energy during a divorce and affect the outcome?
Usually if I'm going to see a change, it's usually about halfway through.
Okay.
And it's about, attorney fees are really starting to rack up. Um, and it looks like there's no end in sight,
Yeah.
type of
Yeah.
thing. And, we don't want to be, listen, there's, lawyers take a lot of heat for their attorney fees and how much they charge, and things like that. But really, you have control over how much your case costs. We
Yeah.
don't we don't want to spend anybody's college education on getting a divorce. We don't
Right.
want to do that. Okay.
Hmm.
And we're constantly telling our clients, listen, this is the offer that's on the table, or should we offer this? We're
Hmm.
always trying to get a settlement discussion going, and we might have a litigation front going, but the idea is that let's, see which one wins, type of thing. So,
Right.
um,
Right.
you know, so I'm not sure if that answered your question or
No,
not.
that's really good advice because if you can kind of think about this ahead of time and think about kind of down the road and how can we do this in a way that we don't, because once you get to the point where you've spent way too much money and you're powerless, right?
Yes,
You're just gonna
yes.
you're gonna throw up your hands and you're gonna do whatever you have to do to end it. But if you can do that at the beginning with
Hmm.
that in mind and really just work on being, working with the system and working with your attorney to find the best ways to close this as fast as
Right,
possible, then you
right,
won't get to that point. I think it's like people start overly emotional and then they start seeing the money and then they're like having a heart attack about how much money they're spending. Like that's not the best way to navigate,
right.
right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And once you go into a courtroom, it's like a football. It can
Yeah.
bounce in any direction. We don't have control over the judicial officers and how they're going to react to your story and your positions and things like that. And you could get a pretty harsh ruling. So, there is a little bit of a gamble walking into a courtroom, no matter how strong your case is. So, be settlement aware at
Yeah.
least. You don't
Yeah.
have to be settlement oriented at first, but be settlement aware. And it comes back to those goals that we talked about at the very beginning of the case. How close to your goals are you?
Right. Right.
So
Very
definitely.
smart. And, so when it comes to that process too, you don't know how people are gonna react when they get in there. Like, you can
Yeah.
coach people, right?
Absolutely.
But it doesn't
Just
mean, right?
being
It
a
doesn't,
good witness, helping
yeah,
yourself and being a good witness. I hear stories all the time in the conference room and listening to people and, trying to capture their issues. And but one of the things that we're also looking at is, are you a good witness or not? Some
mm,
people just completely collapse under the
yeah,
litigation process.
yeah,
And, understandable. I don't think it comes naturally to anybody.
no,
And
no,
so, and if it does, I'm not even sure I want to represent you, but it just gets to the point where it's like, so this whole process doesn't come naturally. And so getting up and testifying and telling the world your story under oath, and then going through a cross-examination process, it's grueling. It just
yeah,
is,
yeah,
so we can avoid that by trying to settle your case and shift. Like you said, it doesn't take much of a shift, but it
yeah,
does take a bit,
yeah.
just come off of it just a little bit, you
Yeah,
know.
and it's an opportunity. I really love for people to understand that every challenge they're going through and everything that they're being called to is an opportunity to kind of rise above it. And if you are, if you've had a lot of trauma and you're coming from that place of like real woundedness, it's hard for you to be in your power. It's not impossible, but you've really got to get a handle on that feeling of powerlessness. Like that's what this brings up for a lot of people, is that they don't have power over their life. And the
Mhm.
truth is you absolutely do, because you have power over how you respond. And if you can gain control of that, which meditation is like the first step to gaining some sort of control over that, and
Mhm.
then it's like the journaling that we do, as far as, what am I feeling? Where does this come from? What do I want to happen? Because the reason why people get so fearful and powerless is because they are projecting what they don't want to happen. And they're
That's
thinking
great.
about what's going to be taken from them. And
Yes.
that is that feeling of like, you're out of control. There's no control. So if you can get to the basis of, this is what I want to happen, and I trust and I have faith and I believe that the best outcome is going to happen for everyone involved. And
Right.
yes, that's possible. As much as we think like somebody's got to lose, the truth is we can all win if we keep ourselves in a place of focusing on what we want.
Absolutely. And then you start rebuilding your new life.
Yeah.
Okay. There
Yes.
is another chapter to come in your life. You're not done. Okay. This is not the end. This is the beginning.
No.
And
Yeah.
so, absolutely. So, when if you can find a way not to step into a courtroom, okay, and it takes two, you got to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Um, but if you can find a way to stay out of the courtroom, then you have the most control that you can have in your case.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Because
Yep.
once you step in that courtroom, like I said, we can all put up our best arguments and, things like that. But I'll tell you, the judicial officers are hearing, I'm saying one thing, they're
Yeah.
hearing another. Okay. So, and then opposing counsel comes in, they say something, and, and then it's just this firestorm. And
Yeah.
it's, that's probably the least control you're going to have in your case.
I
So,
love I love that, because energetically, once you get into the courtroom, it's like every person that's in that courtroom is bringing the energy of their past,
oh,
of
yeah.
their past experiences, of their judgments about
Yes.
you and about what's happening. And if you're not, especially if you're not equipped to handle that kind of,
Yes.
attention,
Yes. Yes.
you don't really know what you're going to do.
Right.
So I love the idea of really coming to that mediation and finding a middle ground to work on, so that it doesn't get to the point where you have to invite in all
Right.
this other energy. I love that.
Yes. Love
That's
that.
good.
Okay.
That's really good. Good stuff.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Mhm.
All right. So, would you say that a lot of people that you work with, I like to talk about problems and solutions, and I
Okay.
love to get people to recognize when they're in the problem, which normally you're in this monkey mind business mode, very serious and really holding on very tight, versus solution mode where you're open to receive, and there's some flexibility there, and there's some ability for energy to move there. So would you say most people you're dealing with are basically in the problem because they pretty much come to you first thing, right? When
Yeah,
they,
it's pretty hot when, by the time that you have made it to my office
yeah,
and, you're ready to pull the trigger and get this thing going. You're at one level, okay,
Yeah.
mentally. It's taken everything you've had
Yes.
just to get to my office,
Yep.
okay? That in itself is a huge step.
Huge.
And then, okay, so then we're going to file. Okay, so now we're serving and, we're doing all that stuff. Well, then we go into this next stage, which is disclosing all this, all your stuff that you have. And, that second stage is cumbersome. It does,
Yeah.
it's just a lot to get through. People don't want to do it,
Yep.
and they're already starting to be burned out in the process because, they're just tired and things like that. And I think that's where the lawyers come in, is that, spoon feed, here we go again. And, we've got to get you through this. But I just really think that if you find the right lawyer,
Mm.
I think it's going to help you a lot, try
Yeah.
to get that process through. But, you know, what?
I'm gonna put up your email right now so
Oh,
that if people are in Orange County and they are looking for a family law attorney, I could not praise Becky enough. I see what she deals with. I totally understand how compassionate and loving she is, and I think that you provide a service that could help people even judge attorneys differently, because I think you guys have gotten a bad rap, and I think you're different, and I love that about you, and I love that you're taking people through something that's so intense and dramatic and traumatic, and kind of giving them, I can't even imagine, like, just that loving, allowing them to be vulnerable and walking them through and just giving them that guidance. That guidance is so important.
I'm hopeful that, I'm always looking for a better way to do family law.
Yeah.
I just am. We've been doing it the same for a long, long time. And
Yeah.
now we have great mental health professionals out there, but a lot of people don't necessarily have access to that.
Yeah.
It's costing them a lot of money to get divorced in Orange County, at least,
Yeah.
and things like that. If they can get either themselves into some sort of counseling, or at least their children get in there and things like that, that's great. But I know for my practice, if I have a client, I'm always trying to put them back into the world better than when I found them.
I
Okay.
love it.
Somehow, some way. It may not be financially,
Yeah.
it's like, because I don't think anybody's happy with their financial settlement when they walk out. Some are, but,
Yeah.
it's tough. But emotionally, I just really am, I'm very committed
Yeah.
to making sure that my clients are better than when I met them.
I
And so
love
that's one of
that.
the reasons why I wanted to come on this hot new show in Orange County. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. You
Woo.
know, and because I'm open to
Yeah.
whatever it takes,
Yeah.
to make this a better process. I'm totally open to it.
I
And,
love
and
that.
recommend it. I'll put your link on my website as a resource,
Love it.
and things like that, because I just I think that you have touched on something that not a lot of people are aware of.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
um,
I wanna just, touch on the finances part of this, because, what I've seen, and this is really cool, with one of the most intense divorce things I've ever been involved with, and I coached a woman through hers, literally for, like, 2 years. We talked every week. And what I've seen, she has built this huge company from something that was a little hobby for her. And I'm not gonna share who she is. I'm hoping to have her on the show, but she's created something really awesome and impactful, and I've watched her build this from nothing. And she was so afraid. She was married to someone who was extremely abundant. They had a very lavish lifestyle, and looking at losing that was one of her greatest fears. And we walked through this process together, and I watched her build this thing over the last few years that completely sustains her and completely sustains her family. And she doesn't have to rely on the opposing person anymore. And to me, taking your power back in that way and showing yourself, if you were not the breadwinner and the other person was, but it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to
absolutely.
find out who you really are, right?
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
the headspace that you're dealing with in a relationship that is no longer worthy.
Yep.
And but the amount of headspace that it's taking to manage yourself, to manage your children, to manage your
Yep.
household, your life, as you're going through this,
Yep.
that amount, once you clear up that headspace, great things come to you. They just do. Okay. Because
It.
if you can devote that kind of headspace to your divorce process, imagine what you could do once it's
Yes.
behind you. You still now have that headspace, and let's put it towards something that's great. And it's going to
Oh,
benefit you and your children and, everything else. Look forward, fall forward, don't fall
yeah.
backwards. So,
I love that. That's really fantastic. And to touch on that, because I do know people that have carried their, 5-year-old divorce around with them, and they're still in resentment and they're still in the
yes,
baggage. And I
yes.
do see women, even I mostly deal with women, but actually I have a man in my life who's just going through a divorce, and I see them create these stories around these situations and feeling like they'll never find love again, or feeling alone, and feeling sad that what they wanted didn't turn out the way they thought. And I love to help people shift and go, what do you want to happen? And
Yes.
what can you do to create that which you say you want? Who
Hmm.
can you become? Because the person who keeps saying, there's no good people out here, there's no
Hmm.
good men out here, there's no good women out here, they're the ones that keep themselves in that space of being alone for longer than someone who just kind of goes, all right, what's
Yeah,
next? I can't
right.
wait to see what manifests from
Exactly.
this, right?
And it may take some time. Okay.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no rush in this
no,
process. Okay. And there's no time,
yeah,
when you're ready, you're ready. You're
yep,
ready to change the direction of your divorce. You're ready to, wander out in the world and try to find somebody, all that
yep,
stuff. Each one of those things is an event, and
yes,
it's like, um, so and it's going to take a little while,
that's true. And it's different for everyone.
yeah, to
That's
change the
very true.
station in your life, it is
Mhm.
go from here to there, it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of vision. It takes a lot of strength, guts, I mean, just to do it, but just go. Just
Yeah,
don't look back. Just
yeah,
go forward and, find the right
yeah.
person to help you.
Because every single one of you out there has the ability to do that, has the power to do that, has the wherewithal to do it, has the energy to do it. As much as you may feel like you don't, you absolutely do, because you are connected to this infinite energy that never ends. So, wherever you are in this process right now, the biggest thing I think that gets revealed to us through these huge challenges is faith, trust. It's
Yes.
building your faith and your trust in your ability to create, but also in the fact that there is a co-creative process here, that the universe is orchestrating things for you. And
Mhm.
and I have seen that across the board with people I've worked with, where crazy miracles happen, and they can't even believe that they're going to be able to move where they want to move and do what they want to do, because that process ended and they got their freedom back, right?
Well, and that's the thing, is that usually, that faith has to be tested.
Yes.
So a lot of times you're just going to be stripped down to zero,
Yeah.
or stripped all the way down to as close as you can to zero, and
Yeah.
then start to rebuild. That's when you see the rebuild, when you
Yeah.
start seeing your way out of this thing, then you start going, okay, oh wow, there might be a light at the end of the tunnel,
Yep.
and whether you meditate or not, just take a deep breath, keep your head as clear as possible. Just, I tell my clients all the time, I need you thinking. Okay.
Yes.
I don't need you spiraling off, because you don't think very well when you lose it. You're screaming at your lawyer and, all this other stuff. I need you to, just reel it back in, because I
Yep.
need you know your life better than anybody,
Yeah.
so you need to be clear enough to, definitely, be an advocate for yourself, or help your attorney be an
Yeah.
advocate for you,
Yeah.
and things like that. But once
Be
that
mindful.
process is tested,
Yep.
that's when the faith starts being restored.
I love that. So be mindful of that, and be mindful of the energy that you're promoting, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
good. All right. So what kind of hope can we give to people? That kind of was hopeful, but that this too will pass. You're on the other side of it,
Yes.
and you have, wonderful things happening in your life.
Yes.
And so what kind of hope can you give to people who are kind of in the middle and the thick of it?
Oh yeah, it's really one of those things that there's been many dark days,
Yeah.
when I was
Yeah.
going through my own divorce, which was a hard one.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, I mentioned the headspace idea. Once you start feeling any kind of shift at all, don't
Mhm.
ignore it. Don't
Yeah.
disregard it. Try to grab on, even if it's just, oh God, today I feel just a little bit better. And I'm
Yeah.
starting to, kind of get into the groove a little bit of this process and things like that. Just acknowledge that,
Yeah.
just that is like, okay, just hold on to that. That's your new normal. Okay.
Mhm.
And if that's your new normal, hold on to that, because that will feed your strength and let you just grow a little bit more. Maybe it takes another month, maybe it takes 3 months, but whatever the case is, hold on to whatever progress that you can feel from the inside out. Again, you
I love
made the decision to go forward. That was one thing.
that.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that's now has created a new normal. Hold on to that. And then let's see if we can build on that. And let's see if we can get you to the next level. And then just one step after the other is how you're going to get through this
Yeah.
process. And
And that's the best way to not be overwhelmed, right? Like
yes,
just one step at a time. And I love what you just shared because that has to do with frequency. And once you start to feel a little bit better, if you can keep reaching and not let your mind talk you out of it, because your mind likes to keep you that safe and the same, and your mind likes to work on problems. So if
yes.
you can keep yourself in a trajectory of feeling a little bit better every day, going
Mhm.
out and exercising, going out in nature, meditating, taking that power back a little bit at a time, before you know it, your day is going to unfold and you're going to go, wow, I actually feel some joy today. And
Absolutely.
when you get there, that's when they say the better it gets, the better it gets, because you tune
Yes.
yourself into a frequency of higher vibration. And then the universe starts to deliver more reasons to feel that way. And then stuff starts going your way. And you're like,
Yes.
wow, I really am creating. And then you gain the confidence to create.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
good.
I
So
love
good.
that.
I love
That
that too.
work for
So
me.
good.
Yum, yum.
Um, so on that note, what is your favorite manifestation story?
Well, besides you, I just went to law school, and it took me a couple times to pass the California bar exam. And, but in my mind, when I was going through my divorce, at least, I knew that I had to become a lawyer, because I was a
Mhm.
family law paralegal for many, many, many years. And then, but I had to get onto my own feet. So let's, just go to law school and pass the bar and all that stuff. That was one. You had to have a lot of vision, and you had to just push that thing. You had to force that bar exam over the top. You really did. So once I did that, then I was doing work for somebody down here in Aliso, and I loved South County or South Orange
Yeah.
County. Just loved it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep.
And so I just kind of threw it out there. There was like, I'd really like to live in South Orange County, and not that I ever thought I would. Not that I
Yeah.
ever thought I could afford it, I'd
Right.
be like, oh my God. And so, yeah, getting to where I'm at now, and then meeting the amazing people such as yourself and other neighbors in the area. It's changed my life. It's changed my
Yeah.
attitude.
Totally.
And I'm just, found my smile again, and,
I
just love
love
it.
it.
I don't put my trash out very often, as you know. I'm not very good at that, but
It's so great having a neighbor. I never grew up in a neighborhood. I mean, we had a neighbor, like in Connecticut, everyone's so spread out that you don't really have neighbors. So when we moved to California, and particularly when we moved into this house and found you, it was like one of these things where you're like, oh, so this is what it's like to have like friends
right?
next door, where you can borrow sugar, and you can go over
Exactly.
for coffee talk. It's like it's cool because you and I started these talks a long time ago, and we talked about doing something together. So this particular show is a manifestation of, us building a relationship together and coming up with all these like these realizations for
Yes,
people, and going, you know what, we have to share this because
absolutely.
it's an important conversation,
It is.
right?
It
Yeah.
is. Let's find a better way to do things, including family law.
Yeah.
Let's just
Completely
do what we
agree.
can. So that's why I completely support everything you do. I just
Oh, that's
I'm a
so
super
good.
fan. What can I say?
Oh my God, I love that. Yeah, we have some good times. We have parties. We have
Yes.
pickleball in the room.
Yeah, we should put up some YouTube stuff about that one.
Oh yeah. So one last question, and I don't want you to get too personal because I know that's like nobody wants to get too personal, but like what would you say to people who are out there, you know, who are facing a certain age range? I know lots of them, as far as, you know, finding that person who becomes your one, who becomes somebody that you really love spending time with.
Well, that's a good one,
Yeah.
because the whole online dating thing, I've been single for a very long time, and I did not believe in the whole online dating thing.
Mhm.
I just didn't. I had nothing but bad things to say about it. And but apparently that's where people meet everybody, you know. So
Apparently it works.
I, I think that you just have to, when you're ready, and talk about manifesting something.
Yeah.
You got to really put it out there. That it's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to have a new boyfriend or girlfriend by this date,
Yeah.
put a date on it that you're
It
going to have,
works.
write it down, and things like that. And then, magically somebody pops into your life.
I
And
love that.
so it just does. You got to
You're
throw it out in the
beaming.
universe, you know, maybe buy
Yes.
a new bed. I don't know, really
Right?
add to the
Act as if.
manifestation, really just get into it.
Yes,
You
and
know?
that's part of the process of acting as if, like, putting yourself in a position where you believe that this is, first of all, you have to believe that it's possible, and second, you've gotta really focus on the fact that you want it versus what you've experienced up until now. Because I think a lot of people get stuck in their ruts of there's nobody out there and I've tried everything, but to put yourself in a place of expectation, like, "Okay, I'm
Yes,
gonna do this online dating thing, and I'm going to have fun and I'm going to see where it goes. And I have my date and I have my person and I know exactly what I want to happen." That energetically produces results, but you have to have a
absolutely.
stronger conduction towards that
Mhm.
trust and faith than you do in the old energy of it not happening yet, because it happens like that,
It
right?
sure does.
Yes,
It
it
sure
does.
does.
I love
Yes.
that. So,
Yes.
so good. Oh,
So,
I'm so happy. So happy
uh,
for you. So happy for me. I'm so happy for
yes.
us.
Oh, I love us. Yeah.
I love us, and
Uh,
I love this conversation, and
Yes.
I really, my intention is to just help people through this process and to give them ideas, give them suggestions and advice of what could help you navigate this in the highest frequency possible and help you to gain your footing again, because everything that's happening, all of our challenges, all of our breakups, all of the things that are happening around us are opportunities. They're opportunities for us to step into our power, realize who we are, become more, and expand and grow. Would you agree?
I would. And I just think family law could use more of it,
Yes.
and
Yes.
just to really help folks. So,
And I think family law could use more attorneys like you.
mm,
And I think even, oh, this is just coming to me and I'm just going to share it. You know, you giving some coaching and some advice to younger attorneys that are coming into this and how to help people navigate. I don't know. I'm just seeing something, just saw
yeah,
something there, Becky.
another intern. I've had a couple interns through my,
Right?
yeah,
Where you actually support the people that are coming up in this field
yes,
to do
yes,
it better. And I think
yes.
as a team, as a world, we can really change this and make it
Love
a
that.
better place,
Love
right?
that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's manifest that now.
Yeah, let's do it.
Need an
Well,
intern.
this was so incredible. I'm gonna pop your little email up real quick at the end
Thank
of the
you.
show here. Thank you for being with me,
Thank
Becky.
you,
This was
Golden.
so
Thank
much
you so
fun.
much. I love your show. Keep up
We
the
are
good work.
incredibly, yes, and I would love to have you on again. This was super fun, and like I said, a really important conversation that needs to be had, probably more.
Yes.
And I
Happy to
hope
do
that
it
you all
anytime.
benefit. And reach out to Becky if you are going through this process or thinking about it, because she's
I'll
like
help
your
you.
she's like your mama, you know?
Okay.
All
I got
right.
you.
Awesome. I love you
All right.
all.
Thanks, Golden.
All right. Peace out.